The massive doors of the Galactic Council building opened with a sound like thunder. Ambassador Kethavar walked through them slowly, his scaled feet clicking on the crystal floor. He had been alive for over 300 years, but today he felt older than ever. In his clawed hands he carried a data crystal that would change everything. The council chamber was huge. 1,000 beings from different worlds sat in rows that went up to the ceiling. Their voices mixed together in a low buzzing sound. Some had fur, others had scales like Kethavar. Some were made of living crystal and others looked like walking trees. But they all had one thing in common. They ruled the galaxy. Kethavar stood at the center of the chamber. Above his head, a hologram appeared. It showed a small blue and green planet spinning slowly around a yellow star. The planet looked peaceful and quiet. It looked harmless. "Council members," Kethavar said. His voice was old and tired. "I come here today to warn you about this world. The beings who live there call it Earth. They call themselves humans, and we must stay away from them." In the front row, High Admiral Vexthor laughed. He was huge, even sitting down. His 6 eyes glowed red in his insect-like head. Behind him sat 100 other military leaders from across the galaxy. They had conquered thousands of worlds. They had never lost a war. "Old lizard," Vexthor said, his voice like metal scraping on stone. "You speak of a species that barely knows how to fly between planets. Their fastest ships would take 50 years to reach the nearest star. What could they possibly do to threaten us?" Kethavar's hands shook as he changed the hologram. Now, it showed broken ships floating in space. The ships were twisted and burned. They had once been beautiful living vessels grown by his people, the Zephyrians. Now they looked like dead metal. "3 years ago," Kethavar said, "my people went to their solar system. We wanted to mine rocks from the space between their planets. It should have been simple. The humans had no weapons that could hurt us. No shields to protect themselves. We thought they would not even notice us." He paused and looked around the chamber. Some of the younger council members were paying attention now. The older ones still looked bored. "We were wrong," Kethavar continued. "The humans noticed us right away. At first, they tried to talk to us. They sent messages asking us to leave. We ignored them. They were primitives. What right did they have to tell us what to do?" The hologram changed again. Now it showed human ships. They were ugly things made of metal and fire. Compared to the elegant Zephyrian bioships, they looked like flying junk piles. "Then they attacked us," Kethavar said, "but not like any species we had ever fought. They did not try to match our weapons. They did not try to outfly our ships. Instead, they did something we never expected." Admiral Vexthor leaned forward. Despite himself, he was interested now. "They turned their cargo ships into bombs," Kethavar said. "They filled them with nuclear explosives and flew them straight at our fleet. The pilots did not try to escape. They flew their ships into ours and died with them." A sound went through the chamber. It was not quite a gasp, but close. Many species fought wars, but few used suicide attacks. It was considered wasteful and primitive. "1 or 2 ships like that would not have mattered," Kethavar continued. "But they kept coming. Dozens of them. Hundreds. They turned every ship they had into a weapon. Mining vessels, passenger ships, even small personal craft. All of them loaded with explosives and aimed at our fleet." The hologram showed the battle. Human ships trailing fire and atmosphere crashed into the larger Zephyrian vessels. Each impact created a brief star in the darkness of space. "We had the better weapons," Kethavar said. "We had the better armor. We had shields that could stop their primitive missiles. But we could not stop a 10,000-ton ship moving at high speed. Physics does not care about technology." Fleet Commander Cormus spoke up from her seat. She was made of living crystal, and her voice sounded like wind chimes. "Surely your fleet could have simply left, moved out of their range?" Kethavar's laugh was bitter. "That is what we tried to do. But the humans had planned for that too. They did not just attack with ships. They used everything. Asteroids with engines attached to them. Space stations that broke apart and became missiles. Even their communication satellites became weapons. He changed the hologram again. This time it showed the human homeworld, Earth. But now they could see things they had missed before. Huge machines in orbit around the planet, structures built into the asteroid belt. The entire solar system had been turned into a fortress. They had been preparing for this day for decades, Kethvar said. Every human in their system had a job to do. Some flew the attack ships, others built the weapons. Still others calculated the orbits and trajectories. Their entire civilization became a weapon pointed at anyone who tried to take their world. "How many ships did you lose?" asked Counselor Drental, a tree-like being from the forest worlds. "All of them," Kethvar said simply. 300 ships, 50,000 Zephyrian lives. The humans let exactly one escape pod survive. They wanted someone to carry the message back to the rest of the galaxy. The chamber was quiet now. 300 ships was a major fleet. The Zephyrians were an old and powerful species. For them, to lose everything to a primitive world was almost unthinkable. But that is not the worst part, Kethvar continued. After the battle, we studied what happened. We analyzed every moment of the fight, and we realized something terrible. The humans had been holding back. Admiral Vexthor's mandibles clicked together. "What do you mean?" "They could have destroyed us faster," Kethvar said. "They could have used bigger bombs, more ships, deadlier weapons, but they chose not to. They wanted to make the battle last long enough for us to understand what was happening. They wanted us to see how helpless we were. They wanted us to be afraid." He paused and looked directly at Admiral Vexthor. "And they succeeded. For the first time in 300 years, I know what fear feels like." The hologram changed one more time. Now it showed another species, the Rakathi. They looked like giant insects with purple shells and too many legs. They were known across the galaxy as perfect soldiers. They shared a hive mind that made them almost impossible to defeat. "The Rakathi swarm learned about our defeat," Kethvar said. "They decided that they could do better. After all, they were not individual fighters like us. They were a perfect unity of purpose. They sent 1,000 ships to Earth." Admiral Vexthor leaned forward again. "And the humans did something that should have been impossible," Kethvar said. "They made the Rakathi afraid. Not just the individual soldiers, the entire hive mind. For the first time in their species' history, the Rakathi experienced terror. Let that sink in for a moment. A hive mind that felt fear was like fire that burned cold. It went against everything they knew about how the universe worked." "How?" Fleet Commander Cormus asked. "The humans captured some of the Rakathi ships," Kethvar explained. "They studied how the hive mind worked. Then they started sending false signals into the network. They made the Rakathi see things that were not there, feel pain that did not exist. They turned the swarm's greatest strength into their greatest weakness." The hologram showed Rakathi ships firing on each other. The purple insect beings moved in panic instead of their usual perfect coordination. "The Rakathi are still recovering," Kethvar said. "Their hive mind is damaged. They speak of nightmares now. Nightmares about humans who fight like demons and smile while they die." Admiral Vexthor stood up. He was 3 times taller than Kethvar and much stronger. His armor gleamed in the chamber's lights. "These are interesting stories, old one," Vexthor said. "But they are just stories. The Zephyrians are soft. They have not fought a real war in centuries. The Rakathi are bugs who rely too much on their hive mind. A true military force would have no trouble with these humans." Other military leaders nodded and made sounds of agreement. They came from species that had conquered hundreds of worlds. They commanded fleets that could destroy planets. They were not afraid of one small blue world. "The hegemony has crushed 1,000 species," Vexthor continued. "We have faced every type of enemy the galaxy can produce. These humans may be clever for primitives, but they are still primitives. Superior technology and numbers always win, in the end." Kethvar looked up at the huge admiral. "Admiral, I have lived for 3 centuries. I have seen the rise and fall of a dozen civilizations. I have watched species that seemed unstoppable crumble into dust. And I tell you now, stay away from Earth. Why? Vexthor demanded. Because they can turn their ships into bombs? Because they made some bugs afraid? These are tactics of desperation, not strength. No, Kethvar said quietly. Because they enjoyed it. The chamber fell silent again. Even Admiral Vexthor seemed surprised by this. In all the recordings we recovered, Kethvar explained, we could hear the human pilots talking to each other. They were not screaming in fear or crying for their families. They were laughing. They were joking. They were having fun while they died. He activated one final recording. A human voice filled the chamber, speaking in their primitive language. The translation appeared in the air above them. Target acquired, Sarah. This is gonna hurt them more than it hurts us. See you on the other side. The voice was followed by laughter and the sound of an explosion. They turned their own deaths into weapons, Kethvar said, and they enjoyed every moment of it. What do you do against an enemy that finds joy in destruction? How do you defeat a species that treats dying as entertainment? Admiral Vexthor was quiet for a long moment. Then he laughed, but it sounded forced. Fear makes you see monsters where none exist, old lizard, he said. The hegemony will prove that these humans are nothing special. We will take their world and add it to our empire, and you will see that primitives are just primitives, no matter how clever they think they are. He turned and walked toward the exit. Behind him, his officers followed. Soon half the chamber was empty. Kethvar stood alone in the center of the room, still holding his data crystal. Around him, the remaining council members talked quietly among themselves. Some seemed worried. Others seemed curious. A few looked like they were already planning their own expeditions to Earth. Council members, Kethvar said one last time, I have given you the warning. What you do with it is your choice. But remember this. Every species that has approached Earth with hostile intent has been destroyed. Not defeated, not driven away. Destroyed completely. He walked toward the exit, his old feet clicking on the crystal floor. Stay away from their region of space, he called back. There are things in the universe worse than death, and the humans have learned to weaponize all of them. The great doors closed behind him with a sound like thunder. In the chamber, the council continued to debate. Some talked about quarantining the human system. Others discussed sending diplomatic missions. A few suggested studying them from a distance. But in the military section of the chamber, Admiral Vexthor was already making plans. The hegemony had never backed down from a challenge. These humans would learn what happened when primitives tried to threaten their betters. The warning had been given. Soon they would learn if anyone had been wise enough to listen. 6 months passed after the council meeting. Admiral Vexthor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Edge. Through the massive viewing window, he could see his fleet. 300 warships stretched out into the darkness of space. Each one was a masterpiece of hegemony engineering. Each one could destroy a city with a single shot. The admiral felt proud as he looked at his fleet. Behind him, his officers worked at their stations. They were the best the hegemony had to offer. They had conquered 47 star systems. They had never lost a battle. Admiral, said Tactical Officer Grexmar, we are approaching the outer edge of the Sol system. Long-range sensors are detecting primitive vessels near the 7th planet. Vexthor turned away from the window. How many ships? 24, sir. They appear to be chemical fuel rockets with basic metal hulls. No energy signatures that match known weapon systems. The admiral laughed. The sound echoed through the bridge like grinding metal. 24 ships against 300. The old lizard made these humans sound like demons. They are just another primitive species that needs to learn their place. Communications Officer Yithara looked up from her station. Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet. It appears to be on a basic radio frequency. Put it through, Vexthor ordered. Let us hear what these primitives have to say. A voice filled the bridge. It was speaking the human language called English, but their computers quickly translated it. The voice belonged to a female human. It sounded calm and professional. Unknown vessels, this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. You are entering Earth's territorial space. Turn back now or we will be forced to defend our system. The bridge crew burst into laughter. The idea that these primitive beings could threaten them was amusing. Vexithor gestured for quiet. Open a channel, he ordered. Admiral Chen, this is High Admiral Vexithor of the Hegemony 4th Fleet. By the right of conquest, we claim this system for the Hegemony. Your species will be relocated to appropriate labor colonies. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. The human response came almost immediately. Admiral Vexithor, we have studied the Hegemony's methods. We know about your labor colonies. We know about the 47 worlds you have conquered. We also know that you ignored Ambassador Kethvar's warning at the council meeting 6 months ago. Vexithor's 6 eyes narrowed. How did these primitives know about the council meeting? Your intelligence sources are irrelevant. Prepare for boarding or face destruction. Admiral, the human voice continued, we have tried diplomacy with species. Like yours before, it never works. You see kindness as weakness. You see mercy as cowardice. So we stopped offering both. The Admiral studied his tactical display. The human ships were moving now, but not in any formation he recognized. Instead of forming a defensive line or retreating to a safe distance, they were spreading out and accelerating directly toward his fleet. Sir, Grexmar said, his voice confused, the human ships are not taking defensive positions. They appear to be charging us. Charging? Vexithor repeated. That makes no tactical sense. They cannot hope to match our firepower in direct combat. Admiral Chen's voice came over the radio again. Admiral Vexithor, I want you to understand something. Humanity spent 400 years fighting wars on our own planet. We learned every possible way to kill each other. We got very good at it. Then we spent another 100 years preparing for the day when someone like you would come to our system. Primitive. Bravado, Vexithor muttered. Begin the attack. Target their largest vessels first. Let them watch their fleet die ship by ship. The Hegemony fleet opened fire. Streams of plasma energy lanced across space toward the human ships. The weapons were powerful enough to melt through a mountain. They should have vaporized the crude human vessels instantly. But something strange happened. The human ships did not try to dodge. They did not return fire. They just kept accelerating toward the Hegemony fleet, flying straight through the plasma bolts as if they did not care about taking damage. Sir, Grexmar reported, direct hits on multiple human vessels, but they are not stopping. They are not even slowing down. Vexithor watched his tactical display with growing confusion. Several human ships had taken direct hits that should have destroyed them completely. But they kept flying toward his fleet. Atmosphere and debris trailed behind them, but their engines still burned. What are they doing? He demanded. Admiral, Chen answered as if she could hear him. We learned something important during our wars, Admiral. Sometimes the best weapon is not the most advanced one. Sometimes the best weapon is the simplest one. The first human ship reached the Hegemony fleet. It was badly damaged, leaking air and burning in several places. But it was still moving at tremendous speed. Vexithor watched in horror as it slammed directly into the side of a Hegemony cruiser. The explosion lit up space like a small star. Both ships vanished in a ball of superheated plasma and twisted metal. The shockwave rocked nearby vessels and scrambled their sensor systems. They rammed us, Grexmar screamed. The humans just rammed the Star Crusher. Before anyone could respond, the second human ship struck another Hegemony vessel, then the third, then the fourth. Each impact destroyed both ships completely, but there were always more human ships coming. All ships, evasive maneuvers, Vexithor shouted. Do not let them get close. But it was too late. The humans had already calculated the trajectories. They knew exactly where each Hegemony ship would try to go to avoid them. For every escape route, there was a human ship waiting. Sir, Yathara reported, her voice shaking. Admiral Chen is transmitting again. Put her through, Vexithor ordered, though he no longer sounded confident. Admiral, Chen's voice said, you are now watching the first wave of Earth's defense. 24 ships, each one carrying a crew of 50 volunteers, 1,200 people who chose to die so that their world could live. Vexithor stared at his tactical display. In less than 10 minutes, he had lost 20 ships to ramming attacks. 20 ships that had cost billions to build, destroyed by crude metal tubes filled with explosive fuel. This is madness, he transmitted. You are throwing away your entire fleet for nothing. For nothing? Chen replied. Admiral, each of your ships carries approximately 2,000 crew members. We just killed 40,000 hegemony soldiers with 1,200 volunteers. In what universe is that nothing? The Admiral's mind reeled. He had never encountered an enemy that calculated casualties like a business transaction. Most species tried to minimize their own losses while maximizing the enemy's. But the humans seemed to view their own deaths as just another resource to be spent wisely. You cannot sustain these losses, he said. You have no more ships? Chen's laughter came through the radio. It was not a pleasant sound. Admiral, those 24 ships were our greeting party. Would you like to meet the rest of the family? New contacts appeared on the tactical display. Hundreds of them emerging from behind asteroids and floating debris. Each one was on an intercept course with a different hegemony ship. Sir, Grexmar reported, his voice barely a whisper. I count 400 new contacts, all of them following the same attack pattern as the first wave. Vexthor felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. Cold, crawling fear that started in his stomach and spread through his entire body. Admiral Chen, he transmitted, your courage is noted, but even if you destroy half my fleet, the survivors will still be enough to conquer your world. Admiral, Chen replied, you still do not understand what you are facing. Let me explain it to you. Those first 24 ships had human crews. These next 400 are completely automated. No crews to worry about, no lives to mourn. Just machines built for one purpose, to turn your ships into scrap metal. The human admiral paused, and when she continued, her voice carried a weight that made Vexthor's scales crawl. We have had 200 years to prepare for this day. 200 years to plan for every possible invasion scenario. We knew that. Eventually, someone would come to our system with overwhelming force, so we prepared an overwhelming response. On the tactical display, Vexthor could see the true scope of what was happening. The human ships were not just attacking randomly. They had calculated the exact position of every hegemony vessel. They had predicted every possible evasive maneuver. The entire battle was unfolding according to a plan that had been made decades in advance. Every asteroid in this system has been mapped and catalogued, Chen continued. Every piece of space, debris has been tracked and analyzed. For the past 50 years, we have been moving them into position. Not just the big ones, everything. Every defunct satellite, every piece of space junk, every abandoned ship. The Admiral's tactical officer was reading energy signatures from the inner system. Sir, massive power surge detected from the third planet. Their energy output has increased by over 3,000%. They are burning their entire industrial capacity to power this attack, Vexthor realized. Not just our industry, Chen corrected. Our entire economy. Our entire way of life. We are converting everything we have built into weapons. Power plants, manufacturing centers, even civilian infrastructure. All of it is being sacrificed for this one battle. Vexthor watched another wave of automated ships slam into his fleet. His officers were calling out damage reports, casualty figures, and tactical updates. But he barely heard them. His mind was struggling to comprehend what he was facing. You are destroying your own civilization to stop us, he said. Admiral, Chen replied, we are not trying to stop you. We are trying to send a message to every other species in the galaxy. We are trying to show them that Earth is not worth the cost. Another explosion lit up the tactical display. The Iron Fist, one of his best cruisers, had just been destroyed by a converted cargo hauler loaded with nuclear explosives. What message? Vexthor asked, though he was beginning to understand. That humans do not just defend themselves, Chen said. We make aggression too expensive to be profitable. We turn conquest into catastrophe. We make sure that anyone who attacks our world pays a price so high that no one else will ever try it again. The Admiral looked around his bridge. His officers were working frantically to coordinate defensive measures, but they were fighting a battle that had been lost before it began. The humans had spent 2 centuries turning their entire solar system into a trap. Every piece of matter larger than a pebble had become a potential weapon. "Sir," Communications Officer Yathara reported, "we are receiving transmissions from the outer system. Fleet Commander Cormus of the Dominion is requesting permission to assist." "No," Vexthor shouted. "Tell her to stay back. Do not let her ships enter this system." It was too late to save his own fleet, but perhaps he could save the others. Perhaps someone could carry word back to the hegemony about what had happened here. "Admiral Chen," he transmitted, I request terms for surrender." The silence that followed seemed to last forever. When Chen finally responded, her voice was cold as the space between stars. "Admiral, you came to our system to enslave our people. You threatened to put our children in labor camps. You planned to strip our world of everything valuable and leave us to die. And now you ask for mercy?" Vexthor said nothing. There was nothing he could say. "I will give you the same terms you offered us," Chen continued. "Surrender now and your deaths will be quick." The Admiral closed his 6 eyes and prepared to meet his ancestors. Around him, his magnificent fleet was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that had turned suicide into an art form. As the next wave of human attack ships closed in on the Dominion's edge, Vexthor had time for one final thought. Ambassador, Kethavar had been right. They should have stayed away from Earth's region of space, but it was too late for wisdom now. The battle had been raging for 6 hours when Admiral Chen's voice crackled across all communication frequencies. Every surviving ship in both fleets could hear her words clearly. "Hegemony Fleet, you have now lost 89 vessels. Our proposal stands: withdraw immediately, and no further lives need to be lost." On the bridge of the dying flagship Dominion's edge, Admiral Vexthor stared at his tactical display in disbelief. 89 ships destroyed, nearly 200,000 hegemony, soldiers dead, and the humans were offering terms again. "This is impossible," he muttered. "They have thrown away their entire fleet. How can they still be making demands?" His tactical officer, Grexmar, looked up from his damaged console. Half the bridge lights had failed, and smoke filled the air. "Sir, I am detecting new contacts emerging from the asteroid belt. Many of them." The display updated to show hundreds of new signatures. They moved with the same deadly precision as the previous waves, but there was something different about these ships. Their energy patterns were wrong for manned vessels. "Admiral Chen," Vexthor transmitted, his voice hoarse from breathing smoke. "Your bravery is beyond question, but you cannot sustain these losses forever. Every ship you send against us is gone forever." The human admiral's response came immediately. "Admiral, you still do not understand what you are looking at. Those first waves, the ones with human crews, they were our announcement. These new ships, they are just the beginning of our real defense." Vexthor felt his blood turn cold. "What do you mean?" "Every piece of space debris in this system has been converted into a weapon," Chen explained. "Every defunct satellite, every old space station, every piece of mining equipment left floating in the asteroid belt. We have been preparing for this day for over a century." The Admiral watched the tactical display as wave after wave of automated ships approached his fleet. There were so many that they looked like a swarm of angry insects. "Admiral," Chen continued, "do you know what humans call this tactic? We call it making the rubble bounce. When you destroy something, we use the pieces as weapons. When you think you have won, we show you that the battle is just beginning." Communications Officer Yathara turned to face Vexthor. Her face was pale with fear. "Sir, we are receiving detailed scans from the inner system. The energy readings are impossible." "Show me," the Admiral ordered. The main screen displayed an image of Earth, but this was not the peaceful blue world they had seen in the council chambers. This was a planet at war with itself. Massive industrial complexes glowed white-hot across the surface. Cities had been converted into weapon factories. Even the ice caps were being melted to power the planetary defense grid. "They are burning their entire world," Vexthor whispered. "Not burning," Chen corrected, as if she could hear his thoughts. "Converting. Every power plant, every factory, every piece of infrastructure on our planet is now dedicated to one purpose: destroying your fleet." The Admiral tried to understand what he was seeing. The humans had turned their entire civilization into a weapon. They were sacrificing everything they had built, everything they were, just to stop his invasion. Why? He asked. Why destroy yourselves to stop us? Chen's laugh was harsh and bitter. Admiral, you think like a conqueror. You believe that survival is the most important thing. But humans learned long ago that there are things more important than survival, such as freedom, dignity, the right to choose our own fate. The human admiral paused. And revenge. On the tactical display, another wave of converted debris slammed into the hegemony fleet. The Steel Victory, a heavy cruiser that had survived 40 different battles, exploded in a ball of superheated plasma. Sir, Grexmar reported, we have lost contact with over half the fleet. Estimated casualties are approaching 300,000. Vexthor closed his eyes. 300,000 soldiers, the largest military disaster in hegemony history, and the humans were not even close to finished. Admiral Chen, he transmitted. I must ask, how long can you sustain this attack? How long do you think? She replied. We have been moving asteroids into position for 50 years. Every rock larger than a house in this system is now on an intercept course with one of your ships. Every piece of ice in the outer system has been fitted with engines and guidance systems. The Admiral felt his hope die. The entire system? The entire system, Chen confirmed. We calculated that any invasion force would have between 100 and 500 ships, so we prepared enough weapons to destroy 1,000 ships. We always plan for the worst-case scenario. Vexthor looked around his damaged bridge. His officers were still working, still trying to coordinate defensive measures, but their faces showed that they understood the truth. They were not fighting a battle anymore. They were trapped in an execution. How did you know we were coming? He asked. Admiral, did you really think you could move 300 ships across the galaxy without being noticed? We have had deep space observation posts for decades. We tracked your fleet from the moment it left hegemony space. The human admiral's voice took on a tone of cold amusement. We knew exactly when you would arrive, what route you would take, and what tactics you would use. We studied every hegemony battle for the past century. You are very predictable. Another explosion lit up the tactical display. The Bone Crusher, Admiral Vexthor's favorite destroyer, had just been rammed by what appeared to be a converted mining platform. Sir, Yathara reported, we are receiving a priority transmission from outside the system. Fleet Commander Cormus of the Dominion is requesting status updates. Put her through, Vexthor ordered. The image of Cormus appeared on his screen. Her crystalline face showed concern and confusion. Admiral Vexthor, our sensors are detecting massive explosions in your area. What is your status? Vexthor looked at the beautiful crystal being who had been his friend for decades. How could he explain what was happening? How could he make her understand that his entire fleet was being destroyed by converted space junk? Cormus, he said, slowly, you must not enter this system. You must warn the hegemony. Tell them that we were wrong about everything. Wrong about what? She asked. Before he could answer, Admiral Chen's voice cut into the transmission. Fleet Commander Cormus of the Dominion. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. I want you to watch very carefully what happens next. The tactical display showed a new wave of weapons approaching the hegemony fleet. These were larger than the previous attacks. Converted, space stations and asteroid mining facilities. Each one was the size of a small moon. You see, Commander, Chen continued, your friend Admiral Vexthor came to our system thinking he was fighting primitives. He thought superior technology would guarantee victory. He was wrong. One of the converted asteroids slammed into a hegemony battleship. The explosion was so bright that the bridge cameras automatically dimmed to protect the crew's eyes. Superior. Technology only matters if you live long enough to use it, Chen explained. And we have made sure that your admiral will not have that luxury. Cormus stared at her screen in shock. You are destroying an entire fleet with asteroids? Among other things, Chen replied cheerfully. We also have some very creative uses for comets, space debris, and old satellites. Humans are very good at finding new purposes for old things. Vexthor tried to cut back into the conversation. Cormus, you must leave. Do not let them drag you into this madness. But Chen was not finished. Actually, Commander, I would like you to stay and watch. You see, this battle is not just about destroying Admiral Vexthor's fleet. This is about sending a message to every species in the galaxy. What message? Cormus asked, though she looked like she did not want to know. The answer? That Earth is not worth the cost, Chen said simply. That anyone who attacks our world will pay such a terrible price that no one else will ever try it again. The Admiral watched his tactical display as more ships died. The Iron Will, the Star Hammer, the Victory's Edge, names that had struck fear into dozens of species were now just expanding clouds of debris. But you are destroying yourselves in the process, Cormus pointed out. Your entire civilization is being sacrificed for one battle. True, Chen admitted. But we will rebuild. We always rebuild. And when we do, we will be stronger than before. Because we will have learned from this battle. We will have absorbed everything useful about hegemony technology and made it our own. Vexthor felt a chill run down his spine. What do you mean? Did you think we were just destroying your ships, Admiral? We have been capturing pieces of them. Every hull fragment, every weapon component, every piece of advanced technology that survives the impacts. Our recovery teams are collecting it. All. The tactical display showed human ships moving through the debris fields. They were not attacking anymore. They were salvaging. By the time this battle is over, Chen continued, we will have samples of every system in your fleet. Our scientists are already analyzing hegemony shield technology, weapon systems, and faster-than-light drives. In 6 months, we will have reverse-engineered everything you brought to our system. The Admiral understood now. The humans had not just planned to destroy his fleet. They had planned to learn from it. They were using his own invasion as a way to advance their technology by decades. You planned this from the beginning, he said. Of course we did, Chen replied. We knew that eventually someone would attack our world with superior technology. So we prepared to use that attack as a learning opportunity. Every species that threatens us makes us stronger. Another wave of converted debris slammed into the remaining hegemony ships. The Death's Head, a massive dreadnought that had been the pride of the Fourth Fleet, broke apart under the impact of 3 modified asteroids. Sir, Grexmar reported, his voice barely a whisper, we have lost 80% of the fleet. Only 60 ships remain operational. Vexthor looked around his ruined bridge. Most of his officers were dead or wounded. The air was thick with smoke and the smell of burned electronics. Through the cracked viewports, he could see the twisted remains of his mighty fleet. Admiral Chen, he transmitted, I surrender. I surrender unconditionally. The silence that followed seemed to last forever. When Chen finally responded, her voice was cold as the vacuum of space. Admiral, 3 hours ago I offered you terms. You refused them. 2 hours ago I offered you mercy. You laughed at it. 1 hour ago I offered you a chance to withdraw. You ignored it. Another converted asteroid struck the Dominion's edge. The flagship shuddered and began to list to one side. Emergency lights flashed red throughout the bridge. Now you offer me surrender, Chen continued. But I'm no longer interested in your surrender, Admiral. I am interested in making sure that the galaxy remembers this day. I want every species to know what happens when you threaten Earth. The final wave of weapons was approaching. These were the largest yet, converted space stations and asteroid mining facilities that had been turned into guided missiles. Each one was powerful enough to destroy a small planet. Fleet Commander Cormus, Chen said, I want you to carry a message back to the Galactic Council. Tell them that Earth's quarantine period is now officially over. What does that mean? Cormus asked. Chen's smile was visible even through the communication static. It means that humanity is no longer content to stay in our own system. We have business to conduct in the wider galaxy. And thanks to Admiral Vexthor's generous donation of technology, we now have the tools to conduct it properly. The last thing Admiral Vexthor saw was a converted asteroid the size of a city bearing down on his flagship. In his final moments, he understood that his invasion had not just failed. It had given the humans everything they needed to become a galactic power. The warning had been ignored. Now the galaxy would learn the consequences. Fleet Commander Cormus watched from the edge of the Sol system as the last hegemony ship exploded in a ball of white fire. Her crystalline form reflected the distant light of the explosions, casting rainbow patterns across the bridge of her flagship, the Crystal Dawn. For 18 hours, she had watched Admiral Vexthor's fleet die. 300 ships, the pride of the hegemony military, reduced to floating debris by an enemy that turned garbage into weapons. It was the most complete military disaster she had ever witnessed. Commander, her tactical officer reported, long-range sensors confirmed total destruction of the hegemony Fourth Fleet. No survivors detected. Cormus said nothing. What could she say? The species that the Galactic Council had dismissed as primitives had just destroyed the most powerful military force in known space, and they had done it using converted asteroids and space junk. Sir, her communications officer called out, we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Put it through, Cormus ordered, though she was not sure she wanted to hear what the humans had to say. Admiral Chen's image appeared on the main screen. Her uniform was torn and dirty, and her face showed the exhaustion of a long battle. Behind her, Cormus could see the bridge of a human warship. It was crude by galactic standards, all exposed metal and primitive displays. But it was still functional despite obvious battle damage. Fleet Commander Cormus of the Dominion, Chen began without any greeting. Your ships maintained position at the system's edge throughout this engagement. I am going to assume this means you are smarter than Admiral Vexthor was. Cormus activated her reply channel. Her voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Admiral Chen, the Dominion offers no threat to your species. We came here only to observe. Good, Chen replied. Because I want you to carry a message back to the Galactic Council. Tell them exactly what you saw here today. Do not leave out any details. The human admiral gestured to something off-screen, and the display shifted to show the orbital space around Earth. Massive construction platforms floated among the debris of the hegemony fleet. They were already beginning to process the wreckage, sorting valuable components from useless scrap. Tell the Council that Earth did not just defeat the hegemony. Chen continued. We consumed them. Every ship, every weapon, every piece of advanced technology they brought to our system is now ours to study and improve upon. Cormus watched in fascination as human salvage teams worked through the debris field. They moved with practiced efficiency, as if they had been planning this operation for years, which, she realized, they probably had. You are salvaging their technology, she observed. More than that, Chen replied. We are integrating it. Within 6 months, every useful innovation in that fleet will be incorporated into our own ships. The humans you see today are not the same humans you will face tomorrow. The display changed again, showing technical readouts and design schematics. Cormus could see human engineers working to understand hegemony shield generators, weapons systems, and faster-than-light drives. But the most important thing I want you to tell the Council, Chen continued, is that humanity is no longer content to stay in our own system. We have spent 2 centuries watching galactic civilization through our telescopes. We know about the slave worlds. We know about the conquered species. We know about what you call labor colonies. Cormus felt a chill run through her crystalline structure. The humans had been watching them, learning about them, planning. What are you saying? She asked, though she feared the answer. I am saying that the hegemony was not our enemy, Commander. They were our proof of concept. We needed to know if our defensive strategies would work against a major galactic power. Now we know they do. Chen leaned forward, and Cormus could see something unsettling in the human's eyes. It was not anger or hatred. It was satisfaction. Cold, calculating satisfaction. Tell the Council that Earth's quarantine period is officially over, Chen said. We will be visiting other systems soon, and we will be offering the same choice to everyone we meet. What choice? Cormus asked. Freedom or slavery? Chen replied simply. Every species under hegemony rule will get to choose. Independence with human protection, or continued servitude without it. The implications hit Cormus like a physical blow. The humans were not just defending themselves. They were planning to restructure galactic civilization. They were going to tear apart the established order and rebuild it according to their own ideas. You cannot possibly challenge the entire galactic power structure, she protested. The hegemony was just one faction. There are dozens of others. Chen's smile was sharp as broken glass. Commander, the hegemony was supposed to be the strongest of those factions. If we can destroy them with converted asteroids and space junk, what do you think we can do to the others? The display showed a new image, human ships under construction, in orbital shipyards. But these were not the crude metal vessels that had fought the hegemony. These ships incorporated advanced technology clearly derived from captured hegemony systems. In 3 months, our first interstellar vessels will be ready for launch, Chen explained. Ships that combine human innovation with the best technology from 47 conquered worlds. We will be faster than the hegemony, stronger than the hegemony, and much more motivated than the hegemony. Cormus studied the ship designs. They were unlike anything she had ever seen. Human engineering combined with advanced alien technology, creating vessels that looked both familiar and terrifying. You are building a war fleet, she said. We are building a liberation fleet, Chen corrected. Every world that the hegemony conquered will receive a visit from us. Every slave species will be offered their freedom. Every labor colony will be given a choice. The human admiral paused, and when she continued, her voice carried the weight of absolute conviction. Commander, humanity spent 400 years fighting wars on our own planet. We learned every possible way to defeat oppression and tyranny. We got very good at it. Now we are going to share that knowledge with the galaxy. Cormus tried to imagine what that would mean. Dozens of worlds suddenly freed from hegemony rule, slave species given weapons and training. The entire structure of galactic civilization turned upside down in a matter of years. The chaos would be unimaginable, she said. Only for those who profit from the current system, Chen replied. For everyone else, it will be liberation. The display changed once more, showing a tactical overview of local galactic space. Red markers indicated hegemony-controlled systems. Green markers showed independent worlds. Yellow markers represented disputed territories. We have identified 47 worlds currently under hegemony occupation, Chen explained. Each one will receive a diplomatic mission offering them freedom. Those who accept will receive human protection and technology. Those who refuse will be left alone. And the hegemony response? Cormus asked. What response? Chen laughed. The hegemony Fourth Fleet was their primary military force. We just destroyed it completely. Their remaining fleets are scattered across dozens of systems trying to maintain control of their empire. They do not have the ships or soldiers to stop us. Cormus realized that the humans had planned this perfectly. By destroying the hegemony's main fleet in a single battle, they had crippled the Empire's ability to respond to threats across their territory. You planned this from the beginning, she said. Of course we did, Chen replied. We knew that eventually, someone would attack our world with overwhelming force, so we prepared to use that attack as an opportunity. Every species that threatens us makes us stronger. The communication link flickered as another human ship approached Cormus's position. This one was smaller than a warship, but it moved with the same deadly precision as the vessels that had destroyed the hegemony fleet. Commander, Chen said, that ship contains our first diplomatic mission to the Dominion. Ambassador Rodriguez will explain our proposals for future cooperation between our species. Cooperation? Cormus repeated. The Dominion has never been an aggressive empire, Chen explained. You prefer trade to conquest, negotiation to war. We respect that. In fact, we would like to offer you exclusive trading rights for human technology in exchange for certain guarantees. What guarantees? That the Dominion will not interfere with our liberation missions, Chen said. That you will provide safe passage for freed species who wish to relocate. That you will recognize the independence of worlds we liberate from hegemony rule. Cormus considered the offer. The Dominion was primarily a commercial empire. They had always preferred profit to politics. If the humans were offering advanced technology in exchange for non-interference, it might be a good deal. And if we refuse? She asked. Chen's expression did not change, but something cold flickered in her eyes. Then you will be treated like any other oppressive empire. We will offer your subject peoples the same choice we are offering everyone else. The threat was clear. Cooperate with humanity, or face the same fate as the hegemony. Cormus realized that the galaxy had just changed forever. The humans were not going to be content with defending their own world. They were going to reshape the entire structure of interstellar civilization. I will carry your message to the Council, she said finally. Thank you, Chen replied. But Commander, I want you to understand something. We are not asking for the Council's permission to do this. We are informing them of our intentions. The galaxy is about to change whether they approve or not. The transmission ended, leaving Cormus alone on her bridge. Around her, the crew worked quietly at their stations. They had all heard the conversation. They all understood what it meant. The humans had won more than a battle. They had announced their arrival as a galactic power, and they had made it clear that they intended to use that power to remake the galaxy according to their own principles. Communications. Cormus ordered, prepare a message for the Dominion Council. Tell them we need an emergency session. The balance of power in the galaxy has just shifted completely. As her ship turned away from the Sol system, Cormus took one last look at the debris field that had once been the Hegemony Fourth Fleet. In a few hours, those ships had been reduced to raw materials for human construction projects. Soon, she realized the same thing might happen to every oppressive empire in the galaxy. The humans were coming, and they were bringing their strange ideas about freedom and dignity with them. The galaxy would never be the same. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, Ambassador Kethvar stood once again before the Galactic Council. The massive chamber felt different now. The confident chatter of before had been replaced by nervous whispers. The beings who ruled the galaxy were afraid. Kethvar walked slowly to the center of the chamber, his old scales clicking on the crystal floor. In his hands, he carried not one data crystal, but dozens. Each one contained reports from across the galaxy, reports about humans. Honored council members, he began, his voice echoing in the suddenly quiet chamber. I bring updates on what the media is calling the human situation. The news is extensive. Above his head, a holographic display activated. Instead of showing the peaceful blue world of Earth, it now displayed a map of local galactic space. Green dots marked human ship sightings across dozens of star systems. In the 6 months since the destruction of the Hegemony Fourth Fleet, Kethvar continued, 17 species have received what the humans call diplomatic visits. These visits have fundamentally changed the balance of power in our region of space. High Counselor Threndax leaned forward in his seat. The ancient being looked older than ever, his tree-like form withered with worry. Define diplomatic visits, Ambassador. Kethvar gestured, and the hologram showed a sleek human vessel. It was larger than the crude ships that had fought at Sol, and its hull incorporated technology that was clearly derived from captured hegemony systems. Human ships approximately the size of battle cruisers, but configured for peaceful contact, he explained. They travel faster than most military vessels in the galaxy. The humans have successfully reverse-engineered hegemony faster-than-light technology and improved upon it. Murmurs of concern rippled through the chamber. The idea that humans could master advanced technology so quickly was disturbing to species that had taken centuries to develop similar capabilities. What do these ships do when they arrive? Asked Counselor Vexara, sister to the late Admiral Vexthor. Her voice carried barely controlled anger. The hologram changed to show footage transmitted by the Yalari Confederation. Human ships hung in space above a planet's surface. The world below showed signs of massive construction projects and industrial development. They liberate, Kethvar said simply. Every slave world, every conquered species, every labor colony in their path has been offered the same choice: independence with human protection, or continued servitude without it. The chamber erupted in agitated discussion. Counselor Vexara, stood up, her insect-like form trembling with rage. They are dismantling the established order. Without proper structure, these systems will fall into chaos. Perhaps, Kethvar acknowledged. But the humans appear to have planned for this possibility. They are not simply abandoning the species they liberate. They are offering comprehensive support packages. The hologram displayed a complex chart, showing trade agreements, technology transfers, and defensive pacts. Military protection, industrial assistance, technological education, and economic development programs. The humans are building something entirely new. High Counselor Threndax called for order as the discussions grew heated. Ambassador, what is the status of former hegemony territories? Kethvar's expression grew grim. 31 worlds have accepted human offers of liberation. Each one is now under human protection and receiving significant technological assistance. The remaining 16 worlds have chosen to maintain their allegiance to the hegemony. And the hegemony's response? Demanded Fleet Commander Cormys from her seat among the Dominion delegation. Minimal, Kethvar replied. The destruction of their fourth fleet crippled their ability to respond to threats across their empire. Their remaining forces are scattered and demoralized. Several hegemony governors have surrendered their territories without a fight. The hologram showed a tactical overview of the region. Former hegemony worlds were now marked in blue, indicating human protection. The remaining hegemony territories appeared as isolated red dots surrounded by hostile or neutral space. The humans are not just liberating worlds, Kethvar continued. They are integrating them into a new type of alliance, not an empire based on conquest, but a confederation based on mutual defense and voluntary cooperation. Counselor Drental, representing the forest worlds, spoke up. What of the Council's authority? Do the humans recognize our jurisdiction over interstellar affairs? Kethvar's pause was telling. I received a formal communication from Admiral Chen 3 days ago. Humanity has submitted a request for full membership in the Galactic Council. The chamber fell silent. Full membership was reserved for major galactic powers. It required the approval of 2/3 of the existing council and carried significant voting rights. Membership? Counselor Vexara's voice rose to a shriek. They dare to seek equality with civilizations that have existed for millennia? Not equality, Kethvar corrected quietly. Leadership. He activated a new hologram showing Admiral Chen's exact message. Her image appeared in the center of the chamber, life-sized and impossibly calm. Honorable council members, the recorded. Chen began. Humanity formally requests not just membership in the Galactic Council, but a leadership role in galactic governance. We offer our services as protectors of the weak and defenders of the oppressed. The recording continued with Chen's exact words. Humanity offers the Council the same choice we have offered everyone else: cooperation with mutual respect or irrelevance with dignity intact. The chamber erupted in chaos. Half the Council, members were shouting in outrage while the other half demanded order. It took several minutes for High Counselor Threndax to restore calm. This is an ultimatum, Counselor Vexara accused. They are threatening us. Are they? Fleet Commander Cormys asked quietly. Her crystalline form had been silent throughout most of the session, but now she stood to address the chamber. Honored Council, I was present at the Battle of Sol. I witnessed the complete destruction of the Hegemony Fourth Fleet. I have seen what humans are capable of when they feel threatened. She paused, letting her words sink in. The question before us is not whether we can stop them. The question is whether we are wise enough to work with them. Kethvar nodded in agreement. Fleet Commander Cormys speaks truth. The humans are not asking for our permission to reshape galactic civilization. They are informing us of their intentions. The hologram changed to show current human ship movements. Dozens of vessels were traveling between star systems, carrying diplomats, engineers, and military advisors to newly liberated worlds. Their expansion continues, Kethvar reported. Every month, more worlds join their confederation. Every month, their military grows stronger. Every month, their technology becomes more advanced. But surely they cannot sustain this pace indefinitely, protested Counselor Zethkai from the merchant guilds. No species can expand so rapidly without overextending themselves. Kethavar's laugh was bitter. Counselor, the humans are not expanding in the traditional sense. They are not conquering and occupying territories. They are creating willing allies who provide for their own defense and contribute to the common good. The hologram showed industrial output statistics from liberated worlds. Production had increased dramatically on every planet that had accepted human assistance. Human technology and organizational methods are transforming entire civilizations, Kethavar explained. Worlds that were struggling under hegemony rule are now thriving as free societies. Their gratitude and loyalty to humanity is absolute. High Counselor Threndax raised a gnarled appendage for attention. Ambassador, what exactly do the humans want from the Council? Observer status has been granted, Kethavar replied. Human representatives now attend all Council sessions. They have requested participation in 3 specific areas of galactic governance. The hologram displayed the human proposals. First, they want authority over all cases involving species enslaved or oppressed by Council members. Second, they want veto power over any military actions against worlds under their protection. Third, they want the right to enforce what they call fundamental sentient rights throughout Council space. The implications were staggering. The humans were essentially demanding the right to police the galaxy. According to their own moral standards, they seek to impose their primitive ethics on advanced civilizations, Counselor Vexara snarled. Their ethics may be primitive, Fleet Commander Cormus observed, but their military capabilities are not. And their ethics seem to be very popular with oppressed populations across the galaxy. Kethavar activated a final hologram, showing public opinion surveys from dozens of worlds. Support for human intervention is overwhelming among civilian populations, particularly on worlds with histories of authoritarian rule. Of course it is, Counselor Drental muttered. They offer something that most galactic powers never have: genuine freedom. The chamber fell quiet as the Council members absorbed this information. The galaxy they had known was disappearing. The careful balance of power that had existed for centuries was being replaced by something entirely new. What are our options? High Counselor Threndax asked finally. Kethavar looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives of galactic civilization. We can accept human leadership and help them create their new order. We can oppose them and face the consequences. Or we can ignore them and hope they ignore us in return. And your recommendation? The High Counselor asked. Accept their leadership, Kethavar said without hesitation. I have studied human behavior for over a year now. They are not interested in conquest for its own sake. They genuinely believe in the principles they preach. And they have the power to enforce those principles, whether we cooperate or not. Fleet Commander Cormus stood again. The Dominion has already negotiated a cooperation agreement with humanity. Our trade with liberated worlds has increased by 300%. Our security has never been better, and we have maintained complete internal autonomy. You are collaborating with them, Counselor Vexara accused. We are adapting to new realities, Cormus replied calmly. The humans are offering partnership, not subjugation. They want allies, not subjects. High Counselor Threndax called for a formal vote. All those in favor of accepting humanity's request for Council leadership in the specified areas? Hands, claws, tentacles, and other appendages rose throughout the chamber. Not unanimously, but clearly a majority. The motion passes, Threndax announced. Humanity will be granted leadership authority over oppression cases, military oversight, and sentient rights enforcement. As the Council session ended, Kethavar remained at the center of the chamber. Around him, representatives filed out in small groups discussing the implications of what had just happened. The galaxy had just voted to accept human leadership. The species that had been dismissed as primitives 6 months ago were now recognized as the protectors of galactic civilization. Kethavar thought about his original warning to stay away from Earth's region of space. The Council had ignored that warning, and the hegemony had paid the price. Now those same humans were extending their influence across dozens of star systems, offering protection to the weak and freedom to the oppressed. The irony was not lost on him. In trying to conquer Earth, the galaxy's predators had awakened something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. A species that did not just fight to survive, but fought to ensure that others could survive as well. As he left the chamber, Kethvar wondered if this was how it felt to witness the birth of a new age. The humans had been warned to stay away from galactic affairs. Now they were in charge of them. Perhaps that was for the best. The old order had been built on conquest and oppression. The new order promised something different: justice, freedom, and protection for all sentient beings. The humans had kept their promise. They had made aggression too expensive to be profitable, and in doing so they had changed the galaxy forever.